Be me. Yes, I think we'll maybe do a new video series for the sake of completing the YouTube experience, I suppose. So I think I'll title this something like Drama and Date It appropriately. Some kind of drama updates as of, and then the date, something like that. So periodically just check in with the drama bullshit, you know. Probably could do that in the what the fucks, but I don't know if that's really what I want to do with those. Haven't decided quite yet. So anyway, the whole general subject of this competitive environment, striving for some kind of popularity, ears, viewers. Now, some people are doing it just for money, and some people are doing it because they wish to be confirmed in what they're saying. Respected as a provider of some sort of information or content. Lots of different motivations for people to be in this environment, doing different things. Entertainment versus information, and of course the thing in between that everybody's playing, which is the infotainment kind of crap. I mean, they would claim that they're doing something for somebody somewhere in terms of helping them, being a role model or something. So anyway, that's just this arena that we're in, generally speaking. Now, fundamentally, I think it's kind of obvious that my primary interest is just the arguments regarding the efficiency of our function, surrounding that general subject, how to be a living creature on planet Earth, kind of a subject. How do we play this game called life, and how do we do it well? And it's more complex than that, because it obviously has to do with this idea that there isn't like this. It's okay to be wrong. It's sort of the fundamental premise is the right way is important, because if you do it wrong, you end up imposing and causing harm and violence to people because you wasted resources, or you deliberately advocated for things that are fucking harmful, like denying people the right to die or something. I mean, these are kind of obvious subjects that aren't obvious to most morons, like Brett Keane. Yeah, I could end every sentence with like Brett Keane, or like Holiday. He's an idiot. So that's a slight little drama between me and Holiday. There's always this tension, and he seems to have this obsession again with the fact that I use the phrase "I'm just saying" instead of saying, "Look, I'll put it another way because you're too cement-headed to get a simple statement I made. You just kind of ignored it. So let me say it another way. Let me emphasize the point." I mean, I could say things like that, but I think "I'm just saying" says it. Seems a perfectly reasonable way to say something like, "Wait, let's go back a step and make sure we understand each other." So I could say that. I could be more patronizing. I could take more words to say it. Let's pretend you're as dumb as Holiday and I have to say everything 17 times. I could say that every time I want to re-emphasize a point. Or, obviously it's been missed, so I want to maybe change the analogy or change the metaphor to make it more visible. Now, there's nothing else I'm doing by saying "I'm just saying." I think that's obvious. And yet this is something stuck in his craw. His this is a guy you could cut clips for all. You could just do it all day long of him losing his train of thought, pausing bizarrely for 15 seconds at a time. I mean, just the dead space alone you could edit out of a Holiday video would be hilarious. Well, anyway, I mean, I'm just saying, it's just, I'm just saying, what's the point of this asshole throwing stones of some sort of lack of being articulate or something? And again, over a statement, I just can't I can't imagine what you think the harm is in me saying the words. I'm just saying to re-emphasize a point. I mean, I could just say, well, let me re-emphasize my point. And because you have an obsession that you somehow see a difference in those phrases, an important difference, why? Because you're a nerd with your head way up your ass? You know, I should be obedient to Hofladay's stupid sensibilities? Man. No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I really haven't seen anybody really have a problem with it. I haven't seen anybody post comments. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I mean, everybody has some of these quirks of their language. I used to say, you know, a lot. Took quite a bit of effort to cut that down. Some people say like a lot. What are you picking on that shit for, you petty weasel? I mean, it just looks petty from a ignorant, dim-witted fat man. Cunt. Yeah, there's nothing else to say. So there, is that drama over? Yes, I think I've disposed of that. It's just unwatchable nonsense videos from him. Did a video on how consciousness works that didn't explain anything. Didn't even come close. We have neurons and they synapse and axioms and we have like 1 billion. Well, maybe it's more than that. I don't know. Yeah, great start. And that's how it finished, with absolutely nothing. We learn because it's learned. And that's how we learn, is because we learn when we're learning. By the learniation. Learniates us. I mean, yeah. So anyway. No real point. He certainly isn't capable of generating enough gear turning to get with the program. So there is no program. Alright, so anyway, disposed of that little bit. So the rest of the drama, it really doesn't have anything to do with me. But, so there's The Amazing Atheist, the Drunken Peasant. So The Amazing Atheist did a video on his regular atheist channel. And it's one of those TJ, I'm being a real person now, complaining. And oh, it's like pathetic to watch TJ in real life. Even in the Drunken Peasants, you know, if you cut out all the TJ clips, it doesn't add up to much. It's kind of funny that the thing is built around him, and yet he makes so few witty contributions. But anyway, not that there's that many witty contributions. It's kind of just like wrestling. So Brett Keane was right about one thing. He did do a video where he compared the drama of the Drunken Peasants to professional wrestling. And he probably should have made that comparison harder, because that's all it seems to be existing for. And I think Brett Keane played along. He put on his character, you know, Joe Commie or whatever, bad rap man. You know, I got a bad rap, you know. Some fat guy with a cigar and, you know, porn pictures sticking out of his back pocket or something. Whatever the character, some dirty, you know, pig fart of a character. And, you know, and then Mr. Clean, you know, on the other side or something. And, yeah, we're going to have this great match. So anyway, what it made me think of is that it became the whole, just in professional wrestling, so it got too boring when you just had individual against individual. And so then they started having the tag team stuff, because see, they need more stuff had to be going on. There had to be more players involved, because the two characters alone couldn't carry the show. And that's sort of what the Drunken Peasants represents, is a, you know, the elevating of the gameplay to the tag team. Except they're taking on individuals, you know, which is really kind of cheating, right? I mean, one guy against a tag team doesn't seem like a fair fight. But whatever. That's their shtick. And so this is the entertainment part of, I guess, of YouTube. And the other entertainment stuff is, you know, the fail videos and kittens and whatever, UFO videos and, you know, I punched my sister or something, whatever. Maybe that's a fail video, I don't know. But just the crap that is YouTube. And the audience is a crap audience, like the audience for professional wrestling, right? So I used to lament years ago the growth of professional wrestling, and I just couldn't believe that this horrible crap, crass, silly, stupid soap opera TV, this formula would work. I thought human beings were getting more sophisticated, and they weren't going to just fall for this simple-minded, addictive crap. It's a soap opera. But then I always thought to myself, well, yeah, but concede, Gary, you watched Dallas, right? A primetime soap opera, and I let it hook me, and I did have to watch. I wanted to know JR, blah, 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 and who's going to get fucked over, and blah, blah. It was interesting to me. And, but I also recognized the psychology of it, and then I saw the same thing, and I still watched football now and then, or a baseball game, and I said, why am I doing this? And it's because it's just a continuing soap opera. It's you could watch a game from 30 years ago. If somebody didn't give you a context, it just doesn't matter when you watch it from. You'll find some player to call your underdog, or some team to be your the champions that deserve the victory, or something to root for and something to root against. You'll find something to like and something to hate. And that's all we do. As a psychology, it tends to be a tendency within us to throw things in these categories of love and hate. And I wish I could say something in a video that would change that. I wish I could say something in a video that would make people realize that voting for Donald Trump was no solution. But there was nothing I could say in a video to make people concede that the worst of them was pulling the trigger. That was just a self-destructive act of of just trying to what's the word they use? It's not grasping at straws, but you know what I mean. There's just some vent. They're venting, and so they vent by putting a gun to their head and pulling the trigger. A desperate cry for help. Maybe that's what you could analogize it to. A desperate act of hate and pettiness, and that's all it was. But that's the world we live in. So this is kind of a dismal medium. You could probably argue that 90% of the available audience, you don't want them to want to watch your videos. I mean, they're just that stupid. Certainly, unless they appreciate the context, in the sense that they kind of understood that this is an ongoing conversation, though, that is kind of still trying to roll the same ball. It's trying to improve on the same not coming up with a perfect analogy for this, but you were trying to refine this big picture story, the truth narrative, I guess you could say, and that does take some work, and that we have invested, some of us, 10 years in this conversation. And then you have these annoying people who just show up and they just throw their little crap remarks and barf them onto the boards, and it's stuff that's been dealt with a million times. Why don't you just kill yourself? Oh, you're just a depressed asshole, and blah blah, some kind of bullshit. And it's just like, get with the program. I mean, it's not even close to having anything to do with why these people, why I, and why the other person maybe are in this interaction or in this conversation. Just no recognition of that at all. So anyway, but yeah, that's basically a drunken peasant audience is just there to put their sponge finger on and root for their guys. And there's not much else happening. It's just a little drama play. They're addicted to the routine, and the routine it's just formula. So anyway, you can almost see it with the Paul's ego and Fake Sagan thing. Okay, Fake Sagan decides to pwn Paul's ego, and does a real shabby job of it. I mean, just pathetic even. And he was proud of it, which is hilarious. But the whole game Fake Sagan's been playing, you have to just say, well, unless fake Sagan was really in, he said he was, had some kind of near-death experience. Well, maybe he did lose half his brain cells. But you're saying there's no way you're going to make me think you're the same guy. Okay, there's no way you got this dumb. I mean, you're just stepping in it, over and over. I mean, you're just stepping right in the shit. It's like, what, you didn't see that shit sitting there? Even his profile picture, his icon, he's put up some kind of what you'd have to consider a joke image. Where he's dressed like a 1970s pedophile. I mean, it's exactly like you could go out on Halloween looking like him as a joke. You can't think, oh yeah, that's a great picture of me. He's got to know that's a funny as fuck picture, right? So you're saying, what kind of game is being played here? Because it seems like it's an obvious game. And even having conversations with Jesus Freak over, over the heresy of praying to saints or worshiping saints or trying to persuade saints to do you a favor and talk to God for you or something. I mean, you're getting into the intricacies of silly Christian derivations, derivations on the rules of what it is to be a Christian. The idol worshipping Catholics. It's just hilarious. But anyway, who can take this seriously? So you're almost saying, okay, fake Sagan said, yeah, I'm gonna stir some shit, and especially this part. Like even if the Christian thing was legitimate, he did post the pictures of the baby shit. Like, okay, well, that's a little queer, so yeah, okay, so we know he's gone somewhere strange. But maybe that was something he always had inside it. There are guys out there who are just like, whoa, I gotta leave somebody behind, or I wasn't here. If they don't leave somebody behind, then they can't prove they were here. Yeah, you think Brett Key's father's thinking that way? Boy, that was a great idea. Leaving shit behind. Ugh, literally. Anyway. So yeah, I'll get to Brett. I mean, I'm skipping over him through fake Sagan. But anyway, so this whole thing between Paul's ego and fake Sagan, so they're exchanging these little bits. So fake Sagan pwns Paul's ego because Paul's ego is ragging on fake Sagan, and Brett Keane in his Periscope or whatever. The fact that people are on all these other mediums doing all this little shit just makes the shit even more. I mean, it almost gives you an excuse not to be caught up, not to know what the fuck's going on. Because yeah, who's going to watch 4 hours of crap to find out, oh, there was 3 minutes of something interesting, or 4 minutes where he talked about me and said some kind of shit. So anyway, so it's just such a, it's almost like they're just creating the characters now, okay? And it's like Paul's ego is falling right into that. I mean, he's becoming a character. Again, I'm perfectly happy with the idea of Paul's ego finding a life that he finds satisfying and stimulating and interesting. Like, that is a pleasing thought to me, quite honestly. But the idea that he's doing it through this drunken pothead peasant potty mouth poo is just, wow. You're just like, no. I mean, I wouldn't have predicted 5 years ago that this is Paul's ego's destiny. I would have figured on something a little more, And even little things irritate Paul now, like, because fake Sagan said something like an amateur actor, and Paul's ego took offense because, I was never an amateur, I was never anything. I remember talking to Paul, and it was something Paul really liked the idea of performance, and I think he liked the idea of doing performance that would be deep. He was kind of like a deep thoughts kind of person, not a let's buffoon something, let's make crank calls. I just didn't see Paul's ego being like a crank call puppet, for the drunken peasants. So I'm just who am I to judge, right? Except, well, I'm me. I'm allowed to do that because I have a brain and it reacts when something happens that it's just not quite right. So anyway, so there's legitimate grounds to, find fake Sagan unbelievable, preposterous, and almost ludicrous in terms of the depth of his current fail. He can't even, he can't accomplish a decent ponage just to save his life at the moment. But what he can do is be a character, right? He can be a Brett Keane. He can go full-fledged Brett Keane, and that'll work too, in a way. If you're after an audience of just people who are just going to root, and especially if you can get yourself in some kind of legitimate underdog status. See, Brett Keane's big failure was he didn't have legitimate underdog status. He wasn't a maligned and undeservedly marginalized character. He really did ask for everything he got. I mean, he was an arrogant fuck. He was on top of the hill, and that just, you're just not allowed to be that catastrophically flawed. You can, it's just too far to fall without you being ridiculed and being stuck with kind of the label of a fail. I mean, you were a preposterous fail. Pretty much. And so anyway, now he's even, like I said, he's apparently he's done taking TJ's advice, because I'm sure TJ would not have advised him to, become more homophobic and go with I'm going to try to sabotage other people on the internet. I mean, the very thing that led to Brett Keane getting kicked off of YouTube and spending the next 5 years or whatever it was, 4 years begging to get back on through any mechanism conceivable, and now he wishes to do that to other people. That's just, gee, that's just so fucking stupid. And for causes that are less than defined, I mean, we can all agree that it's people who are, I mean, I don't know, we can't all agree. I guess that's part of the problem, is we can't agree on what the nature of harassment is, or the nature of an appropriate use of somebody else's video content, or I don't think you really have a right to Photoshop other people's videos. I mean, it's their image. You don't have a right to Photoshop it. It's a kind of art. You have to go and get your own. Draw your own. You want to draw a picture of somebody mocking them? Well, that's fair. I think it's still childish as an argument technique. Now, I've only applied it in circumstances where people were applying it to me, so I just threw some back at them. And the judge, of course, who wouldn't listen to the case, just for the illustration of what he's, by not actually making a decision, what he's just opening the door to, because they won't make any decisions. But I mean, there should be a standard where, yeah, you can't use somebody's own content, it is theirs, pervert it to your purposes. I mean, that just ain't right. And it's, again, the very fact that they have to resort to those kind of arguments means that their arguments must be weak, right? You don't resort to doing that unless you don't have much. All you got is some superficial thing to mock. And yes, Brett Keane provides lots of evidence for that, because he doesn't try even very hard to straighten his beard or do anything to fix it up a little bit. Make the presentation a little... even take himself out of the presentation. I mean, frankly, Fake Sagan's smart enough to say, hey, maybe I look good in silhouette. Figure out some way to make yourself look more presentable if you're trying to play this game where you're going to be in an argument with people where you're going to play that kind of game. So anyway, but my underlying point is Brett Keane is basically endorsing this kind of fascism, where we will decide, YouTube or the popular people on YouTube or some other kind of crap like that, what content will be allowed and what won't be allowed. And the standard's not going to be some standard that really has to do with any particular kind of cheating. And maybe that's hard to define, and that's a problem. Maybe there needs to be some other mechanism of appeal, let's just say. Let's say you get somebody can create an offense against you, and then you can write a defense for your behavior and see if you can persuade the people who are saying you're not worthy that you are worthy. Some kind of process like that, instead of this all or nothing automatic kind of judgment, trial in one day kind of bullshit. Accused, tried, found guilty, and imprisoned, in the same minute. So anyway, I don't know if I need to go into that any further. So yes, Brett's apparently moving to some other platform, which I say bravo. I mean, the more videos he makes about, the more obnoxious he is in what he says, and especially this crap where he just keeps trying to put all crimes on atheism, like atheists are the evil people on earth. He even did a video on the old the family that was accused of molesting some kids, and it's not clear that they were all innocent. It's just clear that the evidence got tainted because too many of the people trying to solicit evidence from the children solicited the evidence too aggressively, and so they had a lot of bad evidence. But that's the problem when you're working with very young children, is they don't have a vocabulary, they don't have a way of explaining what exactly happened, and they're very paranoid about saying the wrong thing. But anyway, that's a whole separate subject. But even the fact that he made out to be some sort of atheist conspiracy and blah 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 blah. It was just, that's just so tired. The ethics of Christians, you could just go down the list of all the failings of the Catholic priests down to the evangelical crooks. I mean, it's it's just disgusting. The Mormons and the slave children. You Christians are grotesque in a much higher proportion, in my opinion. Alright, so that's enough of that. And I don't believe like I said, I don't believe in anything called a god anyway. It's just got some kind of made-up fairy story about unicorns or something. Brett Keane was never a very good atheist, to tell you the truth. Anyway. So what else is there left? So anyway, so TJ made a video ragging about the fact that YouTube is being unfair because they have content producers that they make more money on as a percentage, and they want to create their own content in the sense that YouTube wishes to control the mechanism. It's kind of like the old QVC, right? In the old days, the Home Shopping Network, whatever, it brought on people to sell their stuff, and it took a percentage. And then it realized it could be a lot more money if it just bought the rights to the talent, so to speak, and did all the production, did all the marketing and sales themselves in-house, and they can make more money that way. So, and also get people to just steal ideas for them. And that worked a lot better, a lot more money to be made that way. And clearly YouTube can make a lot more money if it's getting a higher percentage, if it has ownership of shows rather than is renting them, so to speak, from content producers. So the fact that they would promote that content more aggressively and create deterrents and obstacles to the content that isn't part of the game that's a game they've always played, and it's one that TJ's success was kind of built on. If it wasn't for that system back then, he probably wouldn't have gained the popularity he did. I mean, he won't concede a point like that because he'd say I was just so much more brilliant than everybody else or something, but I think you can go back to the Captain Awesome, Brett Keane, TJ. Those were the three big ones for a while there in terms of subscribers, and how they got promoted by YouTube because of the partnership program and shit like that. And if you didn't join that program, you got excluded. And YouTube got rid of all the indexes that would allow people to search videos by subjects or search them by ratings or views and all of that stuff. So everything that, all the mechanisms that would allow the unpartnered content to fight even fights with the partnered content were annihilated. And it was basically a game of, you know, whoever's first wins. And you know, it's just a popularity engine, much like Google, that doesn't really do any work to find good content. It just promotes what some constituency declares good content. All right. So, but anyway, it's just kind of ironic that now he's complaining about the very kinds of unfair systems that were what he took advantage of. So, hypocrite much? Yes. What else? Fake Sagan, Brett Keane turned into what we already knew he was. You know, yes, a fascist and an asshole. But no, he's actually said he's going to go out and flag content and do this and do that. And, you know, even if you don't like what's going on YouTube, you know, unless somebody's really in your house, so to speak, there's no reason to advocate that people play that game, because we know that that just leads to very unfair practices, where the small guy who doesn't have an army gets annihilated by the people that do have an army, like the drunken peasants. They get to run roughshod over everybody else, so to speak. And who wants a system like that? Not I. Anyway, so yeah, there was one other little bit to throw in there. Piro, I remember he mentioned in one of his rants, one of his way too long, silly videos. I caught some piece where he was talking like they should make their own drunken peasants version. And, you know, it'd be nice to have some sort of infotainment show, you know. But again, it's every time you try to do that, it just ends up, I think, it just degrades into what the drunken peasants are. You just find an audience and you tell them what they want to hear. And it's like news organizations or anything else. They just end up being slaves to their constituency. And it's the whole problem with monetizing videos and everything else, because yes, you're just going to measure your words based on the fact that you know who's paying the bills, and so you're going to want to please the people paying the bills, and blah 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 blah. And it's very corrosive to this medium being used in some sort of more naturally human way. It just ends up being commercial products arguing with each other, fighting for commercial dollars. And that was another thing in Fake Sagan's video. You know, he's like basically advertising some stupid twitchy tool, you know, some toy to keep your hands busy. I thought that's what penises were for, but you know, whatever. I guess people need, you know, to do some kind of whatever. It's okay. I just, you know, I can just do it naturally. Thank you. Yeah, it just seemed like a commercial. You know, I mean, an unpaid commercial or whatever. It just seemed like a commercial to me. You know, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I guess I could do a video about, well, these pens are pretty good. You know, they got like a felt soft tip or something, and I can't remember what they're called, but they're like really good. So I did commercials. I didn't buy it. Yeah, no, it's just found a pack in somebody else's house. Who left them there? Anyway, so Yeah. So anyway, but the idea of something, the tag team kind of thing of, but yeah, it's just going to be drama. Just end up being who can just do the pwned thing and then get people addicted to the characters and how's Paul going to get him? How's Fake Sagan going to recover? Blah blah blah. And let's tune in next week, and it's it's not exactly what I'm looking for, and but that again is irrelevant. Because I'm obviously not doing YouTube the way it's the way the audience wishes the YouTube to be done. Let's say it that way, and that's a human race problem. Like I said, I mean, the truth is that you can't have a serious conversation with too many people on Earth. They neither have the knowledge base to keep up, and they don't have much of a passion because they're sort of just living their own emotional little lives, and all they're really concerned about is, like holiday, is whether they have enough bacon in the freezer. And it's all kind of dismal, but this is, nobody told you it was going to be easy. Yeah, we're doing it because it's hard. Candyism. Never thought that made much sense, right? We're going to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Are you doing something just because it's difficult? Well, that's stupid. I mean, you could have come up with something more. Hey, you got to do it, right? We got to know. We got to know. Yeah, we got to know. Yeah. Then it's like the first step. You can't do the whole space thing without saying, well, yeah, you got to step on that thing out there. Sure, you got to step on it. Anyway, I think that's enough. But yeah, they didn't need to step on it 48 times. That was kind of redundant and stupid. But they keep going back to Mars. So, see, it's just, there's something about this human thing where they just, you can just regenerate characters and regenerate interest, let it die down for a while and then bring it back. And maybe that's with this YouTube drama thing. It's just going to be this little moment here and then it'll die away again. Because there really hasn't been much, this kind of way over the top kind of drama for a while. But it all looks so contrived, right? It just all, Paul's ego's hysteria over, Fake Sagan's insults. And it's just like and the hypocrisy of it is, Paul's ego was really butthurt about Brett Keane implying that Paul's ego's girlfriend was underage, insinuating pedophile or something. And he really found that so insulting. And then as soon as he saw the Fake Sagan image, what did he do? He just kept riding with the, 1970 pedophile. What was that? I mean, you could say 1970 used car salesman. I mean, that image goes for a lot of things. Homosexual. There's lots of things you could sit there, and mock that Fake Sagan image for. But yeah, it really was it is, frankly, I lived in the 70s, so I mean, it's a good thing I don't think I have any pictures of me in this, the late 70s. Although I looked very good, I sometimes didn't dress very well when I think about it. I mean, I did have shoes with, 1.5-inch heels on them. I mean, it was a weird time. Very strange time. Yeah. So anyway, but I never wore the collars. I never did wear. Did wear a bow tie though, but that was sort of a work thing. Anyway, I mean, you end up, if you end up wearing a uniform at work, you end up liking it after a while. You just get accustomed to interacting in the world in your uniform, and it's kind of, you feel awkward in street clothes. So it is kind of a funny scenario. Yeah, just saying. So I mean, this, I think that's a completion of this, whatever it is. So yeah, we'll see what else comes up. I was thinking, obviously the drunken peasants chooses what to pick on and all that kind of stuff. So you can never. I mean, it would be interesting if they actually played one of my good videos. I mean, the only video I saw them ever do anything with was one from like 1968 or something. So as long as they get the control over picking which video to buffoon, kind of takes the fun out of it. They ought to take on people's best arguments, not their weakest arguments. But they'd have to man up for that, right? And they're all kind of fat and tubby and lazy and mushy looking. So, I just don't think they have enough Schwarzenegger in them to, play a good game. But anyway, I think that's enough. So, till the next time, which, maybe this will be once a month, I don't know. It just depends on how much drama there is, I suppose, right? And such.